What's up guys and welcome back to Tech Plant. So your aloe vera is an overgrown mess. Well, you've come to the right place, so let's check it out. Alright, so first things first, let's get what kind of soil we're going to use. I'm going to use this cactus potting mix. I'm going to put some orchid potting mix in there and then add some perlite. This is just going to make sure that the soil drains very well, because that is honestly the key to success with these kinds of plants. I can confidently say that most people end up killing their aloe because they've overwatered it. The other thing that's ultra important is getting a pot with a large drainage hole so you can make sure water does not build up inside. Alright, on to the plant. So as you can see, my plant is getting absolutely ridiculous, and without this jar holding up the one section, the pot would actually flip over. Now, if you want to get multiple aloe vera plants, you're going to want to plant them in smaller pots. The smaller the pot, the more confined it feels and the more greater chance of it to produce pups, which are baby aloe vera plants. Alright, so for my first step is I'm actually just going to cut this really large one out of the pot. And I guess you could cut anywhere on that line, but I'm just going to cut close to the soil. Now, this is pretty important. Obviously, this one has grown quite long, and I don't want it to be like that because it makes it top heavy and makes it lean. So I'm actually going to pull off all those pieces and kind of shorten it up so that way it can sit in the pot straight vertically. I don't want it to lean to any sides, and I want to remove any of the leaves that are close to dying. Naturally, as these plants grow, they kind of just let their early leaves die, so this is a totally normal thing. However, I don't think it looks appealing, so I'm going to rip them off. You can kind of see that each leaf kind of is a ring, and so you just kind of put some pressure on the base and they should peel right off. When you're peeling these off, don't get too crazy. You want to leave some length to it, only because you want something for the plant to actually like root into the ground with. If it's too short, it's going to fall over very easily. So I gave myself about 3 inches. Alright, next we're going to get some of these shorter ones, and the really baby ones definitely don't need the leaves to be pulled off, so I'm going to try and preserve their roots. As you can see here up close, a lot of these have a lot of roots, and because they aren't too long, I can actually try and cut some of these out with some roots on them so they have a good chance at survival. I only chopped the main aloe vera plant at its base just because I did not like how long it was getting. But if you can, you want to try and preserve some roots. So I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife, and I like these just because they're very skinny, sharp, and pointy, and you can really dig down deep with them and kind of sever the roots. Try and keep as many roots as you can as possible. However, for this one, this was about 4 years old, so there's so many roots in there, it's hard to do this correctly and perfectly, so just try your best. Once you get it out, you should have something that looks like this with quite a few roots. And again, this is plenty for the amount of roots that you need. This plant will do just fine, and it will hold itself up perfectly. This next one is a wee little baby, but we'll be able to get him out of there. It doesn't actually have too many roots, so just try and get at least 1 or 2. Again, these will all put out some more roots over time, so don't worry too much. These are very hardy plants. The only way I think you're going to kill this is by root rotting it, so don't worry too much about cutting off too many roots. Alright, now that I got all the other ones out, I do kind of want to investigate. This is a 4-year-old aloe vera plant, and it actually almost died once, and I brought it back to life. Again, root rot will kill these things, but not watering them. You can bring these things back from the brink of death if you haven't watered them in a while, so always kind of caution on the side of underwatering. But anyways, I wanted to investigate and see how many roots these really put out, and my goodness, it filled the entire pot, which is why a lot of the pups or baby aloe vera plants were popping up. Again, this one is a little taller than I want it to be, and it already has some kind of like dying old leaves, so I'm just going to chop this one off similarly to how I took care of the major big one. Again, you can just use your thumb and just kind of yank these things off. They're just like rings. I did not film the first one, so this is obviously the second one. You're going to re-see the footage, but this is the process you want to do. Just kind of peel off the unhealthy-ish type leaves. Alright, so here's what we have from this one pot. We have 2 with roots and 2 without. So we're going to have to take 2 different steps for this, which is good because you'll get to see both methods. Just a quick reminder, the smaller the pot, probably the better, because once your aloe vera becomes root bound, then it starts to push up all the baby aloe veras. So if you want more, put them in a small pot and you'll get a lot more baby aloe veras. Obviously, this will probably take a year or 2. It's worth it in the end. Alright, back to our method. So for our rooted ones that actually have roots, we can go ahead and pot those up right away because they're ready to go and we can toss them right in the soil. However, for our ones without any roots, we're going to have to let them callus over because it's a little dangerous to put them right in the soil like this because you can cause root rot in the open wound. Alright, so we're going to prep the soil here, and again, I just like to use the perlite, the cactus mix, and some of that orchid mix. I think it produces a pretty good soil for these that drains very well, because like I've said once before, if not twice before, overwatering is the #1 killer of these plants. So you want really well draining soil and a pot with holes in it. There is no exact science to the mix, just kind of mix it up, give it a good amount of portions. I think I'm almost doing like a third, a third, and a third, maybe a little more heavy on just the cactus soil, because again, you could get away with just cactus soil, but I just like to mix stuff up because I feel special and smart. Alright, so once you're happy with that soil, get your pot. I personally like these terracotta pots. This one is painted so it doesn't help as well, but normal terracotta pots help dry the soil out faster, which is what you want with these plants. And again, try and pack this soil down a little bit at first, because you want this heavy plant to kind of get situated nicely. These things like to lean and fall over very easily, so kind of make sure it's packed in there nicely. Just make some room for the roots, and that really should be all you need to do. For the second really baby one, I did just use a small plastic pot. You can do that for the real little ones, but if you want kind of like a forever home for them for like a good year or two, I definitely recommend terracotta pots. Alright, so I like to try new things just so you guys can get some information. I have seen people water propagate succulents before, so I want to try it with this. However, it started to get a little soft and squishy and kind of spooked me, so I abandoned this thing and just let it callus over. But for the first day or two of it sitting in the water, it seemed like it plumped it up nicely. And honestly, I think this might be a good method to give your aloe vera some quick water where it can really kind of plump up its leaves in preparation for the callus and the rooting. So maybe you can try it for 1 day or 2, but you really got to be careful, because if you don't, you could cause it to rot away. So here they are after they've been callused over for a few days. So I just let that bottom part dry out. You can see that the first one is very plump, and honestly, I feel like a good portion of that is because I did have it in water for a day or 2. So it might be a good method to kind of improve your propagation chances, because you can see this other one looks a lot more dry and there is not much plumpness in its leaves. So I'm a little concerned about this one, but I think it might be okay. Here you can kind of see much closer how what used to be kind of like a soft raw part of the plant has really dried and calloused nicely, and it has a very good chance of not getting root rot. So again, we're just going to pot these up. This time I got a little lazy and I'm just going to use the regular potting cactus soil just to show you that you don't need any special mixture. It's just kind of preference, and if you kind of understand what you're doing in your watering cycles, that may be a good reason for you to mix your own stuff, but otherwise, just getting some store-bought cactus soil should do the job just fine. Again, make sure to pack your soil in a little bit, just because these plants are massive and they're very heavy. You don't want it falling over and like shooting dirt all over the room, so kind of get it in there and bury it quite well. You don't want to bury the nice green leaves too deep like I kind of did, because they could rot if they sit and stay wet, but I have confidence in my ability to not let the soil get too wet, and I think it'll be just fine until it roots a little better, and then I might clear some of that dirt away. And for the second one, we're just going to do the same thing. I'm going to pack the soil in, and as I insert it into the soil, I'm really going to make sure that it's sitting in straight and perfect, because again, I don't want this thing falling to the ground and getting damaged. These things are very top heavy, and with no roots holding it in the dirt, you really got to make sure you have it straight. Again, I'm surprised at how much skinnier the leaves are in this one, but it was kind of looking that way in the original pot, so who knows. But I have full confidence that this is going to root well, and I'm going to have a nice little plant. Well, I hope you guys can replicate this method. It's pretty easy, and these things are pretty forgiving. Again, do not overwater these. These plants thrive on being neglected. You can forget these things for weeks and months at a time, and they might just get a little skinnier, and once you throw some water in there, they'll perk up quite nicely. So don't worry too much and try not to overwater it. I know it's difficult because we all love our plants and we just want to help, but sometimes with these, giving it water is just not helping it at all. So good luck with your guys' plants. Well, I hope you guys thought that was helpful. I did try and do kind of that water propagation sort of thing that I've been seeing. It kind of spooked me a little bit. It got a little squishy, and I just gave up and went to the more traditional route. I will try again in the future, but this was my one and only aloe vera plant, and I did not want to lose it because this is probably one of my older plants, maybe 4 years by now, so I did not want to lose it. But I hope you guys like that I'm trying to experiment with different methods all in one video, so that way you can try different things or see like how they worked out for me. But anyways, I hope this works for your aloe vera. I hope it goes smoothly and they grow well. And as always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.